Hey, Rich here from SHTFandGO and Bulletproof Rocket Stoves. We had an old video of some of our discontinued stoves from years ago, and we haven't made a new one to compare all the stoves, so we're going to go ahead and dive right in. We offer 3 model gasification rocket stoves, and many people may not know what that means. That's not a traditional rocket stove where air is introduced underneath the primary burn. There's actually a secondary burn. There's actually air that's reintroduced into the stove. This is a double wall. There's a double wall here, and on our RPG there's a double wall. So that is a little different from most of the rocket stoves that are out there. Now I'll go over the sizes. This is our 22 Adventure folding stove. The stove, when it's put together, is 15 inches tall. This accepts wood that is about 4 inches wide. Or I'm sorry, the fuel chamber is about 4 inches wide. And there's some unique things about this stove. The stove actually breaks down and folds. You can actually put everything inside and it becomes a portable stove. You can take the legs off. All of this stuff goes inside the stove. So that is very unique. And it's a stainless steel stove, so you don't have to worry about weather getting to it or any of the paint degrading over time. So more for like an outdoor camping situation, family camping. It can also run on wood pellets. Right now it's set up for wood. We can actually flip this little guy around here and put it back into the stove once you lock it into these little notches here, and I'll show you how to do that. Just like that. So now you insert this back into the stove, and it's actually a pellet burning stove. Pellets will gravity feed down. You'll get about a 20-minute burn time. If you want to have a longer burn time, we do offer the Pellet Hopper. That'll give you about an hour and a half burn time, typically. And you can just run it with our regular pot holder. This just slides inside, and those are adjustable. Or we do offer this as well. This is actually a wood-powered lantern. So you'll see the flame come up in here, and you can cook on top of it. And you can actually turn this depending on whether or not you want the flame to hit what you're cooking, or you want a more even temperature throughout the unit. When we have the lantern on it, this thing actually stands about 21 inches tall. Next is our 50 Bmg stove. This is a heavier duty stove, has an ashtray. The stove stands 21 inches tall with the pot holder, but there are a couple things that you can do with this stove that you cannot do with 22. This stove is completely collapsible, meaning you can take the chimney off here. Just kind of slide those off. Slide those off, and everything will go inside the stove. Just like that. And you have a carry handle, so you can carry this out to campsite, your cabin, whatever. And then once again, obviously you control the air, and the ashtray is here, so you can remove that to take the ash. But something unique about this stove, it accepts 4-inch vent pipe. So say you wanted to use this in a tent as an emergency heater, you can insert your vent pipe and then vent this out of a tent or a small cabin if you were using this in an emergency. So that's one thing that it can do. Also, take that chimney out and you put that back in. Then we can take our outdoor Griddle Me This product. This actually slides right over. If we loosen up a little bolt here, slides right over and down. Now this is a griddle surface. You can tighten this up, this little wing nut. But this is a griddle surface that you can use outdoors only. This actually exhausts underneath the stove to heat this evenly. So that's a new product. Now this Griddle Me That, this is called the Griddle Me That. This is the Griddle Me This, and I'll explain the difference. So this is for outdoor use only. This griddle can also go on top of our RPG stove. We take the grates off of this one, and you can use that as an outdoor griddle right on top of this as well. It'll fit right onto our chimney. But one of the unique things about the RPG, this is our chimney stack that is bolted on. The RPG can also take the Griddle Me This. Now this is a unique griddle in the fact that it accepts vent pipe. So you can actually bolt this on and hook this up and be able to use this in a tent or in an emergency situation for heating and cooking at the same time. The RPG also has an internal damper. When we rotate this damper forward, we're sending heat to this front section, so you can cook on that if you didn't have the griddle. You send it to the back, and now the flame would come right out the top of the chimney. So those are some unique things about the products that most people aren't aware of. Now I'll come back over here and put the chimney back on. This actually bolts right on top. And we'll put our pot holder on. Just like that. The RPG has an ashtray and a damper door. This is a gasketed door. This handle can be pulled out and switched to a left-handed position if you wanted. And this stove, unlike the 50 is a wood-only stove. The 22 is a wood or wood pellets, but the RPG is wood or wood pellets. All you're going to do is, while this grate is inside the stove, flip this up, then you can load wood pellets into this hopper, and with some intervention every once in a while, it will feed fairly well. Now it doesn't burn pellets as well as it burns wood, but you can put a pretty long stick inside this stove. So we've had this stove burn for over an hour and a half by controlling the air. Down here is how you control it. All of our ashtrays are built like shovels. So we're actually controlling the air with the damper that's on the bottom that's also your ashtray. The last thing is that the RPG stands roughly 26.5 inches tall, but it accepts, it's 5 or 6 inches wide by almost 5 inches tall. So it's a much larger capacity stove for wood. All right, well, we're going to light these off. The biggest obstacle anybody has to starting fire is gather your wood ahead of time. Now, we've gathered a couple different sources of wood. These are just sticks out of the yard. You want stuff that is really, really dry, brittle to start the fire. So something like these little grasses is good. You can use a little fire starter. This is actually a little brick fire starter or fat wood. I'm a big fan of fat wood to start these. This is just cord wood that we split up into small little pieces, and you want to have some really thin stuff to light off in the beginning, and then start adding larger pieces of wood. You really don't want anything bigger than your thumb if you're cooking. Now, if you're going to have vent pipe hooked up to these stoves, and you get a really strong draft, then you can start using larger pieces of wood so it has a longer burn time. But all rocket stoves use very little wood, burns it very hot, very efficiently, but the drawback is that you have to keep on adding wood to the system to keep it going at that same rate. This is actually just a junk pallet wood that we had laying around, so I just split that up into small pieces, so we'll see what the differences are. But all right, I'm going to go ahead and start this off. I've got some small sticks in here. And this one I'm just going to light with paper and the small sticks, and then we'll move on to the fire starters. Just keep on adding small pieces in there. Pick this up so we can see the flame coming out of it here. So it's starting to draft now, and you can see the flame coming out of the top of the chimney. The soot gets on the glass when the stove first starts and when it goes out of fuel. Once it gets hot, it'll actually burn off. And you'll be fine, but you can actually see the flame peeking out of the top of there. So I'm actually going to use that to start my my fire in my other stove. I'll get some wood in here. Try to use the really thin stuff if you can. Now I'm going to use one of the fat wood sticks because that works really well in this. And I'll go ahead and stick that in that fire, and we'll get it going. I'm going to have to keep on putting wood in there if I want that to keep going in there. And we'll put that in there and keep on adding some We can move over to regular wood on this stove too. Until it starts drafting, leave this open. You'll notice as soon as it starts drafting. Alright, I moved over the little stove to regular chunk wood here, just so I don't have to feed it as often. It's going to take a little while for that stuff to get going. But then I've started the 50 Bmg with the griddle. I still have the griddle top on it, so that'll take a little while to start drafting. And then I used one of those little fire starters. You can see that down in there. But one of the nice things about the RPG is that it does accept a lot of wood. So you can see, once I get in here, I'll get the shadow in there. You can see there's quite a bit of wood in there, and we're just going to let that get going. Alright, so we added chunk wood to this instead of sticks. You can see there's very little smoke coming off of that stove, and it's drafting up pretty good. You can just barely make the flame out inside there peeking out. The griddle is going. It's not going full speed yet, but you can see flame is peeking out from under there and hitting the griddle. And then here's the RPG running. This has only been running for just a couple minutes, but you can see that flame down in there is burning really nice and clean up here. I don't know if you can see anything in there yet, but you can see the distortion from the heat. It is drafting really nicely. Alright, well, we're going to sign off. You can kind of see the flame. Well, you can't really in this daylight, huh? But you can see it up there. And we have all three stoves running. And you could cook on any one of these at this time. RPG. Open the door up here. See the flame down in there. And we can control the air here with the ashtrays. So same thing here. If I want to turn the flame off, I can close it down and actually restrict the flame. Let's see, if I close that down, it'll start pulling in through here. And we'll open it back up. And here, we gotta push these forward. It's starting to burn pretty good. Put a couple more pieces of wood in there. And close the door. And there we go. Alright guys, hope this explains a lot. If you have any questions, let us know. And you can find out more information on all these stoves at SHTFandGO.com. That's StuffHitsTheFanandGo.com. Thanks for watching.